This reporter places the blame for all of this squarely on you, the viewers.
Would you say we'd be venturing into a zone of danger?
It doesn't matter what you think.
You're listening to the Our Take Podcast with Bryan Sherman.
He had a full head, all the way till the end. It was white, and I was hoping to get that. I was hoping to get, like, the full head, and it was really hard to cut it off.
And Spencer Rogers.
To be a good pilot, you have to be able to make good decisions, and I know what my credit score is, so I know I don't make good decisions.
This is the Our Take Podcast.
From Scary Parrot Media Studios in Ogden, Utah, it's the Our Take Podcast, episode 81. I'm Bryan.
I'm Spencer.
It is March the 16th, 2020. On this day in history, Spencer and I are quarantined in the podcast studio here at Scary Parrot Media Studios. And we will be for the foreseeable future, so podcast every day, maybe. Just depending on what comes up here.
So, this is all that's been in the news.
Right.
First of all, let me mention, before we get into this, that supposedly on April 11th, Rejected Takeoff will have its first show.
Right.
But
Still,
it remains to be seen whether it will also be canceled.
right. Still on the books. But you know how I like to inform people.
Yeah.
Good news or bad news.
Right.
Right. I have to tell you the real this day in history that I found.
Oh, okay.
March 16th. This day in history, in 1968, the My Lai Massacre. Have you heard of this?
No?
Me neither, and it's terrible, but I think it's important for people to know good and bad things.
This massacre typically isn't a good thing.
But this is how we learn.
Oh, okay.
Right? The My Lai Massacre was one of the most horrific incidents of violence committed against unarmed civilians during the Vietnam War. So at this time, the troops in Vietnam had pretty low morale. The Tet Offensive was just taking place.
Right.
The war never was going well.
Yeah, I was going to say, did they ever have a lot of morale in Vietnam?
Charlie Company had the 11th Infantry Brigade. They had lost a lot of people. They were down to just over 100 soldiers. Okay, and they were told that there's this village, this area called Son Me, where they were told everyone in that village should be considered Viet Cong or Viet Cong sympathizers.
Right. This is actually sounding familiar from when I watched Ken Burns.
So Lieutenant William Calley showed up and found no Viet Cong. Instead, they came across a quiet village of primarily women, children, and older men preparing breakfast rice. Nevertheless, they were rounded up so they could search their huts. They found 3 weapons.
Their Pizza Huts?
Yes. They found 3 weapons amongst these 500, actually more than 500 people. And he just said, shoot them. He ordered the killing of them. And some soldiers kind of balked at the order, but almost immediately shooting started. One guy recounts that he saw them shoot an M79 grenade launcher into a group of people who were still alive.
What?
Most of this was done, however, with a machine gun. We met no resistance, and I only saw 3 captured weapons. We had no casualties. It was just like any other Vietnamese village. Old men, women, and children. As a matter of fact, I don't remember seeing one military-age male in the entire place, dead or alive, this man said. In addition to killing unarmed men, women, and children, the soldiers slaughtered countless livestock, raped an unknown number of women, and burned the village to the ground. They tried to cover it up for a year until one soldier who had heard about it, he had written the president, senators, the chiefs of staff. He's written all these letters and no one said anything. And so he finally talked to a reporter in Vietnam, an American reporter, who broke the story, which then led to an investigation. The only person that was convicted of a crime was Calley, the guy who ordered the killing. He was actually sentenced to life, and then it was reduced to 20 years, then it was reduced to 10 years, and he was released in 1974, 6 years after this, for premeditated murder. So, I think I've told you about Joseph Campbell before, the anthropologist who talks about, not judging soldiers.
Oh, yeah.
With the same rules that society has. It came up when Trump pardoned the war crimes dude.
Yeah.
so I'm not passing judgment here on this story, but it's just important to note what happens to men and soldiers in a state of groupthink. You
Right.
know? Like the part that gets me besides the killing is why are you raping the women?
Yeah, how does that come up? Like when you're doing
I
that,
don't-
it seems kind of
I don't get it, man.
weird.
There was a hero though. Hugh Thompson
Mm-hmm.
was flying a helicopter on a reconnaissance mission, and as he was flying back and forth doing this recon, he saw more and more bodies just like piling up.
Jeez.
So he saw the villagers fleeing
Mm-hmm.
from the soldiers. So he put his helicopter in between the American soldiers and the fleeing villagers and threatened to open fire with his
Nice.
helicopter. Yeah. Because he saw this is his words. We kept flying back and forth. It didn't take long until we started noticing large number of bodies everywhere. Everywhere we'd look, we'd see bodies. There were infants, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, women, very old men, no draft age people whatsoever. So yeah, he just kind of just set down his chopper. He ended up receiving a medal for it.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I mean, I think it said this is horrible, a horrible statistic. 56 infants,
Jeez.
173 children, 182 women, 17 of whom were pregnant. Anyway, I'm sorry. Look, I'm sorry.
Wow, that was cheery.
I like people to be informed. I like to be informed. I'd never heard of this
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
And probably because I haven't watched all the Burns.
Yeah, you got to watch Ken Burns. It's a
But,
good documentary.
It just speaks to what
Speaking of documentaries.
what happens to them
Oh, yeah, I know.
as soldiers, you know. And
Those aren't normal things that
no,
I would hope not, at least.
No, and-
I mean,
a lot of these men or boys really,
yeah,
probably didn't want to be there. They were drafted.
right.
And it just goes to show when angst kind of boils over, and you have a leader who's telling you, is joining in and telling you to do it.
Right.
You know, I'm sorry. Can I tell you a funny story though? Now, it's about rejected takeoff.
Oh, okay.
So I used to have this floor tuner.
Oh, yeah.
my pedal tuner.
Yeah, the one we were talking about the other day.
Yes, they're very convenient
gray
because
one.
you click it, it mutes your guitar, but you can still tune.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what happened to it.
Uh-huh.
And I found it at our old recording
I
space
told you.
in this bag over here, and I put a 9-volt in it. That's what it takes.
Uh-huh.
Come down here, plug it in, nothing.
And that's how you got coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing happens. I'm down here in the recording studio, our jam space, and yeah. So I'm like, well, I can't remember right. Maybe it needs to be plugged in as well, and the battery's just there. You know what I mean? So I plugged it in with a DC plug-in that I have, and turned it on, and I'm like, oh, cool, the light's on. That's working, right? And then I hear a little pop, and I see smoke. And it was coming out of the input, like the input for the guitar.
Oh.
And I'm sure the fuse is maybe just right next to it or
Right,
something.
right.
But yeah, my freaking pedal started on fire.
I did that once. If you on those pedals, if you put in too high of a voltage, it just
Just fries it.
in fact, I think I did it with one of my pedals. Oh no, it was like a power transfer.
Oh, yeah.
And I used your pedal's power supply, and I plugged it in, and it goes, zip. And I was like, oh, why did I do
Just
that?
toasted it.
Yeah. So
They
that's-
just shouldn't, I know they have different size,
Right, right.
but they should really just, they should make the higher voltage ones too big,
right. So you don't put diesel in your unleaded.
Right. Same concept. And you can put unleaded in your diesel, but, that's what's going to happen. For
Well-
the record, we invited Dr. Bayham onto the show.
Yeah.
He refused.
He refused.
He said, this topic is too hot.
He actually, it was my dinner is too hot,
Right. Yeah.
and he did miss our jamming the other day because his clinic got coronavirus tests and everyone went crazy.
Yep.
So
Yeah, his clinic, and that was on, when was that? Wednesday?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
On Thursday, the whatever, 10th, 12th, I don't know what it was. He
it's 12.
he texted us, let us know that his clinic just got test kits for the coronavirus,
Right.
and that he was slammed all day. He had like 13 patients to go at like 5 o'clock still or something like that.
So, okay.
But I asked him,
Yeah.
before you go, I asked him, I said, hey, when you're testing all these people that are sick or think they're sick, when will they know?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And he's like, 5 days.
Yeah, I know.
5 days?
Yeah.
So we've talked about it before, that all the tests have to go to like a central location.
I believe that's changing though here.
Hopefully,
like, soon,
as
like
we get
in the
more
next
tests.
couple of weeks. But
Yeah.
because they've made it a faster process where it's supposed to be 24 hours. But
So do they still have to go to the state health department
no, I think there's like a.
to be able to do it on
Oh,
site?
that's what. Okay, do you remember? Did you watch the president's? Was that on Thursday?
He's given several addresses.
I know. I think he's doing one today in a little bit. But out on the lawn,
Oh,
and
yeah.
when he was with all the people from all the different retailers,
Yeah.
and it was the people that always do the drug tests and stuff for you.
Like LabCorp.
Yeah, it was LabCorp and another one. They're going to be helping pick up, and they're going to do the tests.
Okay. So logistically, they're going to work it out better.
Yeah.
I mean, this testing thing is a joke, though, because
Okay.
What
let
did
me, no, let me tell you.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you.
Go ahead.
So Thursday, all right. So we haven't been on since last week, and
Yep.
we were talking about a little bit, and this is before.
Shit really hit the fan.
Yeah. So Wednesday, Rudy Gobert.
And I think the fan is still on low right now.
Yeah, I know, right? Basically, the Utah Jazz are responsible for ending all sports in the U.S.
And destroying the economy.
and ruining the economy.
People are bankrupt.
Yeah. So everything on Wednesday happened, and I'm sure if you know, I don't need to tell you everything that happened. But the next day, I'm at work, and as you'll recall, I went to Japan.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now, right?
They're like, you go home now.
No. So I had a cold when I came back.
Right.
And I had got over that cold relatively quickly.
Which I told you was coronavirus.
Well, it might have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, but over the last week, I started feeling like I was getting re-sick.
Oh, so it was incubating. What?
Maybe, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of had a sore throat, runny nose,
Oh, good. See, runny nose, not a symptom of coronavirus. Very good.
Well, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you were going there. I'm sorry. I
Anyway,
was trying to make you feel better.
so on Thursday, I actually I text Ethan pretty early in the morning, like 10 o'clock, and I was like, dude, do you know where I get tested? Like, what do I do? And he's like, I don't know. No, he told me to go to that they were testing at Davis and the hospital in Davis and Ogden. And since I was in Salt Lake, I called the hotline, the coronavirus Utah hotline,
Sure.
which is worthless. Just so you know,
How long were you on hold?
I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so basically, it asks you two questions. Have you been in contact with anybody, and have you been to a high-risk area? And if you press 1 on either of those, then it sends you to another automated message that says, please contact your local health provider. I'm like, what?
Right.
What?
And if you press no, then it just hangs up on you.
Basically. So, and then it does give you the option to talk to somebody. So I was like, okay. So I waited on hold for a little bit for that. It wasn't really that bad. And they were like, okay, well, you should probably call University of Utah Emergency and see what they can do to set you up for testing. So I called the U, and I got somebody, and they were just like, it was like they didn't even know the coronavirus was happening. They're like, you what?
It sounds more like flu to me. I don't know.
It's like I don't know. It was ridiculous. So I hung up with them, and I found a different number, and I called them, and that took an hour. Okay. And I was on hold with somebody, and she got all my symptoms, and then she's like, okay, we need to put you, and it still sounded like no one really knew what they were doing.
Right.
Like it was just...
Which is probably actually the case.
Yeah. So they're like, we need to set you up with a telehealth doctor. Mm. And so that whole process took probably an hour and a half.
Which, if I remember right, the president, I don't think it was that day, it was yesterday, I believe, lifted the restrictions on doctors' state medical licenses so that they can be teledoc to a state they're not licensed in.
Oh,
It's
really?
supposed to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I waited. I got everything. I had to download an app. I got all set up for it, and I talked to this lady, the doctor, who was kind of a bitch, probably because she'd been dealing with this all day.
Yeah.
And she asked me my symptoms and why I thought I had it, and I was just like, "Oh, well, I don't know that I think I just want to, because I don't. If I get it, I don't care. I do not care. I'm not going to die.
Right, you'll be
But
fine.
I don't want to give it to you, and you could give it to your dad. That would be bad, you
Sure.
know. And my brother-in-law's dad is, if he got it, it'd probably be pretty bad.
You've got
Just
an
new
infant?
baby,
Yep.
which actually I did some research, and apparently infants are like almost immune to it. For
Yeah,
some
well,
reason.
young people and kids for almost every other virus are a high risk group, but
Yeah,
this one they're
for whatever reason, this one is not. So
manufactured
that made me
way.
feel a little bit better when I found that out. But I just wanted to do my due diligence, so
Right.
I wasn't responsible for someone dying.
Sure.
But she just told me that I didn't qualify to take the test.
Which, by the way, you doing that is like 100 times more than what most people are doing. Most people think, I'm not going to get it. Even if I do, I'll be fine. And that's as
Right.
far as they think.
Right.
You were thinking about my daughter and my dad.
that, and I was also, as soon as I got done talking to Ethan, I was like, oh man, Ethan's a doctor, and if I do have it, we've been in close contact. He's going to have to quarantine along with everyone else he's seen.
All his
I'm like,
patients.
holy crap, this could be bad. I gotta just.
Yeah.
So she was really quick, and she's just like, no, you don't have it. You don't qualify to test.
Because of the runny nose.
That, and I didn't know if I had a fever.
Oh.
And so that's all I said. I was like, she asked me if I had a fever, and I'm like, I don't know. There's no thermometers. I don't have one, and they're sold out everywhere.
They are, yeah.
And so she's like, oh, well, you don't qualify. I'm like, well,
I have an extra one you can use.
I don't know. I don't think I do. So I'm not completely convinced I don't have it, but I feel fine.
Well, apparently,
but
there's no mucus associated with coronavirus.
Oh, well.
So if you have any mucusy symptoms,
yeah,
it's not it.
it's been like chest. It must probably just be left over from my cold and
Right.
allergies or something.
because it's a very dry cough and shortness of breath and fever. Those are the three big ones. If you have a lot of mucus, stuffy nose, runny nose, ear infection, that means you don't have it. This virus doesn't do that.
Right.
So
that was the whole experience. It was a letdown. It's like, man, this sucks. We really need to get better at this.
did you look into the testing and what happened with WHO and the president?
What do you mean?
WHO had tests ready to give Americans
Oh, really?
in February, and the
Oh.
president said no
Why did you say no?
because he wanted to be American made.
Who cares?
That's the question. He does, apparently.
Does he drive an American-made car, or do you think he has a Mercedes?
I mean, the Beast technically is a Cadillac.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I mean, that's
It has a Cadillac emblem. Anyway, yeah. So the testing is a joke, and the lies have been rampant. I know we talk crap on Trump here, but I mean, just for real numbers, I believe it was last Monday he said that there were enough tests to test anyone in the country who wanted a test. And literally the same day, the CDC was like, we have 75,000 tests. There's 350 million people.
does he not know how many people are in the United States?
Well, and speaking of that, I was watching the press conference yesterday where Pence said that we can make 30 million masks per month.
uh-huh.
And so I did some quick math and realized that, hey, everyone in America will have a mask by next January then.
Hasn't the CDC said not to get masks?
Well, you're right.
Well, so why would he even bother saying that?
Because they're sold out
'Cause
everywhere
he's
you
an
go.
idiot? Like,
But they do protect you, right?
no, they only.
No, an N95. Then that's the mask they're talking
Yeah.
about. It's the N95 mask. However, if someone sneezes in your eyeball or in your ear, right? Or if you touch your face. So really, the people who should be wearing masks are those who are sick, right? If they have to go somewhere because they're the ones coughing and sneezing, but they can't protect you as well.
So, one of my people on Facebook here actually has put together quotes from the president since January 22nd.
Okay.
So, January 22nd, We have it totally under control. It's one person coming in from China. It's going to be just fine. February 2nd, we pretty much shut it down coming in from China. February 24th, the coronavirus is very much under control in the USA. Stock market, which he always is.
Everything goes back to the
Stock market starting to look good to me. February 25th, CDC and my administration are doing a great job of handling coronavirus. Same day, I think that's a problem that's going to go away. They have studied it. They know very much. In fact, we're very close to a vaccine, which we are, but it's still a year or so out from getting to the public.
From testing, last I heard.
Oh, okay.
It's like a year from testing.
Yeah.
Anyway, it could be.
February 26th, the 15 cases in the U.S. Within a couple of days is going to be down to 0. That one's probably the funniest because why?
Well, let me just give you a brief update while we're on that number. Today, according to Worldometers, 647 new cases in the U.S.
Yeah. It's
today.
I mean, the more we test, the more people are going to have it.
Right.
I mean,
and the longer, more it's spreading.
Yeah.
It's spreading. We did have our first case of community spread in Utah yesterday.
We did. I actually went up to some county to try and get it so I could stay home from work, but
right.
Let's see. Let's skip a few days here. Low ratings, fake news, MSDN.
MSDNC, that's
yeah.
what your first MSNBC is.
Yeah. Comcast and CNN are doing everything possible to make the coronavirus look as bad as possible. We're going substantially down in numbers, not up. One day it's a miracle. It will disappear. You take a solid flu vaccine. You don't think that would have any impact?
That's the best one. That's the best one by far. Solid.
Then March 4th, if we have thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that get better just by, sitting around and even going to work, some of them go to work, but they get better. And then the 5th,
that one created.
I never said that people feeling sick should go to work.
You didn't direct them. You're
Yeah.
right, but you did say they do.
Yeah. The United States has, as of now, only 129 cases and 11 deaths. We're working very hard to keep these numbers. It gets steadily worse as it goes until finally.
We've had 11 deaths today.
Right.
Yeah.
Until finally on the 6th, or let's see, when did he do his big magnum opus here?
That was on. Let's see. He did. Did he do 3 last week?
This actually ends before. It'll go away. Just stay calm is the last thing.
Yeah, he did 3
March
press
10th.
conferences last week.
He did a lot.
Yeah,
he did a lot.
Okay, if this was fake, why is he right? Well, and I can tell you actually, he's not doing press conferences for the coronavirus. He's doing press conferences because the Dow
Oh, I know, right?
tanked.
Yeah, worse
Like,
than the 1987.
When he took office, it was at 19,000 and change, and it's gone all the way up to 29,000. In
Yeah.
January is when it peaked, and it dropped all the way down to 20,000. It's back up a little bit now, like to 23,000. And frankly, the Dow is actually not a very good indicator of things. If you want to know why, go listen to Planet Money. They do a really good podcast about why the Dow is not a good indicator. Nevertheless, that's what we go by. This is why the president started freaking out, because it was votes.
Right. Well, votes, and I mean he's running on a good economy, and
And it's not doing well.
Been trying to follow the news more
this is John Mulaney.
much more involved with the news.
This is exactly how I feel.
That, this week, over 2 days, the Dow Jones dropped 929 points. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is to not know what that means.
That's yeah.
Yeah, the Planet Money about the Dow. I think it's episode 443 when I just do a quick Google of Planet Money. They break down why it's not a good one to listen to. And it's a good podcast anyway. I know you hate me directing people to other podcasts.
Yeah, stop listening to other podcasts.
But these podcasts are short and sweet, and they're
not long and terrible like ours.
Right. Yeah, speaking of work and you not wanting to go to work, what has your work taken any measures? Any messages from your CEO? What's the deal?
Yeah. Dude, I've gotten messages from every company I've ever done business with ever. Like every email. I got
Yeah.
Enterprise.
Yep.
I freaking got one from Jimmy John's.
I got one from Les Schwab Tires.
I
We promise we're sanitizing our tires.
no, I got some ridiculous ones that are just like
Right.
what? Some places I didn't even know that I'd been to.
Right.
But
I thought the tires were probably the best one.
yeah, that's all. That's amazing. I think I did get one from like Ken Garf Honda.
Yeah.
You can still come buy cars. We won't.
Please come buy cars.
So this is a bit of a point of contention for me and work because on Friday, our VP over our department told his people below us to tell us that we would be working, allowed to work. We're going to split up the team of 6, and 3 of you will work on odd, and 3 of you would work on even, just to social distance.
Sure.
And we were all like, "Great, that's awesome." And then later in the day, he said, "No, we're not going to do that. Just work regular."
6 people that's few enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the whole office, but I don't.
So how many people are on within 50 feet of you? How many people? Or let's say 100 feet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like 10. No, it's not that many.
So not many. And then like you take an elevator though.
Well, from what I can tell, all the other companies are working remote because the parking lot's empty.
Okay, so you share your building isn't just for SkyWest.
No.
Okay.
We're a very, very small part of the building, actually.
Yeah. So last week we probably got a dozen updates from our CEO. There's 3,000 people that work for the company. I think there's probably a little over 2,000 who work in my building, and they're on top of it.
Yeah.
So they were already planning on distributing laptops to everybody this year, just as a company initiative.
Oh, okay.
So now they've like ramped that up, trying to get everybody to go home. So on Friday they actually sent out an email it was after the governor of Utah said, if you can work from home, like please.
Well, apparently my company knows better than the LDS Church, the NBA, the MLB, Apple, every single other company. But hey,
right? No, I hear you. So on Friday, our CEO sent an email. It's like anybody who has any symptoms, or if your family or anyone you know has symptoms, or if you're immunocompromised in any way, leave now. And so a bunch of people just left. We had for people from IT unscrewing monitors. People were taking monitors home, and we use just clients at work, not a
right.
They're taking their clients home. And then I got an email yesterday that was like, "Hey, if your children's daycare is canceled, don't come to work. We understand that, but we're going to have IT set up on Sunday for 4 hours. You can come to the office, get everything you need. They'll help you set it up."
Okay.
So you can work from home. Some of you get laptops, some of you won't. We just don't have enough on hand.
Right.
So I actually, Quinn's daycare was canceled. So I went down there today, and I wasn't assigned a laptop. So they just gave me my client, unhooked a monitor for me, gave me all the cables, and were like, "Okay." Gave me like a 4-sheet instructions, how to like set up my phone so I can call from my computer, and it's still my work phone number, But I got to hand it to him.
But do you think
that's incredible?
That this is going to inspire some companies to just be like, "This is working fine"?
Absolutely.
I was really hoping that was the direction we were going to go. And I think that may be why they put a stop to it, because they're going to want to do this all the time. Because really, we don't need to be there ever at
the
all.
nature of your work doesn't require you to be.
No, we don't. There's zero reason for us to be there.
Are you paid hourly?
No.
So same thing.
No,
same thing there.
There's no reason for us to be there.
And I work in sales, so there's an even bigger argument for me, which is if I don't sell, I'm not going to make money.
Well, yeah.
So anyway, I got to hand it to the company I work for. They
good. Yeah. Does it just till?
So with me, if they were to distribute me a laptop, I might be able to go back to work sooner. But with them giving me my client,
dang it,
and monitors, like I think I'll be working from home at least for 2 weeks then, because that seems to be the standard. Maybe till April 30th is another big date that they keep using. So I'll be working from home. I like going to the office because I like my teammates and stuff, but it certainly is a drive, and I hope that we can do well in this and that we can kind of show.
Yeah.
It's a new generation of
Yeah. So now to the real question that a lot of people have been asking, especially people in the sports industry. If you listen to sports talk radio at all, and mind you, it's all right now. Our local station is they switched to national because all the people from the local station
we're with the Jazz.
and their studio's actually in Vivint Arena. So everything's getting clean. So they've been off the air all week.
What a perfect story.
I know, right? And a lot of people are just saying, is this overblown? Do we really need to cancel everything?
I was very, very surprised at how swiftly the NBA acted.
They did
within seconds.
Seconds. It was fat. They must have already been.
I think they knew that Rudy was sick.
Well, they did because
but then they didn't know if it was coronavirus.
Right.
You know, and then they find out they cancel the game they're at. 20,000 fans in the arena.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. And within seconds, Adam Silver tweets out, "NBA season suspended."
Yeah,
it was crazy,
and it was a chain reaction. And so here's my I see both arguments, but I do feel like we're in this panic mode that's not really completely necessary.
I would challenge that only because I've been thinking a lot about this and realizing the difference between panic and cautiousness, right?
Yeah.
And because we know so little about who could be carrying this, I think I don't know what his title is in Washington, but like the health secretary basically just said, we assume that everyone has it at this point.
Well,
so everyone just stay away from each other, and if you don't have it, great. But we need to slow the spread. And have you heard the concept for slowing the spread so it doesn't overwhelm healthcare?
Yes. Which that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense to me. If you don't know what we're talking about, basically they're saying we know that this many people are going to get it. Let's call it 1 million, and they're going to need to be hospitalized.
Mm-hmm.
That's not 1 million. I'm just saying that number. But let's say we know 1 million people will need to be hospitalized. If we don't social distance, all 1 million people all 1 million people are going to need to go to the hospital this week.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to need ventilators, which we don't have.
Right.
You know, and so they're saying if we slow that down, knowing that these 1 million people are still going to need to go to the hospital, at least we can stretch it over time so the hospitals are never overwhelmed.
Right.
So it makes perfect sense. But here's the problem.
Right.
The problem is we'll never know if it worked or not. Because let's say the spread stops, like what's happened in China. They shut Wuhan down immediately.
Right.
Like crickets in the street.
Right.
And let's see how many new cases China has today.
They had one the other day.
5.
Yeah.
5 new cases today. Compare that with Italy, 3,590.
Yeah, Italy's struggling.
So now we don't know the specifics of Italy's plans and their social distancing plans, but those are the 2 models you would then compare and say that worked.
Well, it seems like, from what I've gathered, and I don't know, I'm not in Italy, but it seems like Italy took a really lax approach to it, and they just kind of were like, it's not a big deal. And then I guess they have an older population there, one of the oldest in the world, and so people are like going left and right.
So, in my opinion, when you're talking about travel and office spaces or big gatherings like sporting events, I think canceling them, I don't think that's panic. In my opinion, that's not panic. That's just being cautiously smart.
But do you think that caused a panic? Because have you been to the grocery store this week?
Yes, and I think that's just my point. You know, a person is panicky.
Right.
A person is panicky. People are not. People are generally calm. As a group, we're just trying to be cautious.
Now,
like nobody got trampled running out of Oklahoma City's
that we know of. They were
stadium.
freaking out.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. What now? The NBA being canceled or postponed, supposedly. I guess we'll see.
I think Adam Silver said for at least 30 days.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole mess to have to reschedule everything, and it's going to be
unless they decide to play into the summer. I don't see it really going anywhere.
Yeah.
I told a buddy at work, I'm like, they're just going to cancel the whole thing. The playoffs are supposed to start in like 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Or whenever it's in April.
So that's now the NBA is suspending their season. I understand because they had a couple players that were sick, and those players interacted with other players, and then those players went on to interact. It's definitely a whole Planet of the Apes chain there,
and the potential for lawsuits from fans,
right?
It grows dramatically.
I was wondering about that. Let me now.
There's a kid who got an autograph from Rudy who has it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Dang. If now the governor has said if you can work from home, you should
do it.
My company says don't work from home.
Right.
If I get sick and then someone gets it and dies,
that's tough, man.
Is there?
That's the difference between the United States and China.
Uh-huh.
I was talking to Ashley about this. If like I said, Wuhan was shut down.
Right.
If you left your apartment building, first of all, you couldn't drive.
You were executed.
Right? You couldn't drive anywhere.
Right.
And as soon as you got back to your apartment building, you were scanned like 3 times. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that happening here.
Well,
they had to call the National Guard to New Rochelle, New York,
right,
to try and contain this because you're not going to stop Americans from doing whatever they want.
We're not used to oppressive.
No. So I don't know. You can compare the two models and you can say, wow, that's crazy. Either this.
Well, I'm just saying, does that open up my company to like a lawsuit?
I don't know. Well, that's my point, is that the state hasn't issued any
laws.
I
see. So they're not violating any laws.
Right.
They're just violating advice.
Right.
And
I mean,
I don't know though.
If
it seems a little
if I knew that I got sick, I think so. I agree. It seems irresponsible and not cautious, right? If I got sick and I knew it was from someone at work,
mm-hmm.
and that got one of my family members or friends sick and they died,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I would probably talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
I just would, like, hey guys, we had evidence from every level of government and in guidelines from every level of government telling us if we can work remote, we should. And I can because I have.
They canceled church.
Right.
Church.
Yeah. Update. Associated Press, first dose to be delivered Monday in clinical trial for a potential vaccine.
Well,
there you go.
It is on the.
They ramped that up. So we'll see. I mean, to me, this is like I Am Legend, though.
Doesn't a vaccine just prevent you from getting it? Not
right. Yeah. There's no cure for a virus.
Yeah.
We don't know how to cure viruses.
So I mean,
yeah, there's like antiretrovirals that like slow. Anyway, I don't know. That's why we need Ethan here. We need.
I know. So you don't think that there's an overreaction? Now, what about?
I think a person overreacts.
Right. No, you're right. There's definitely like pandemonium going on with people. Now, what about how this is affecting the economy? Because I can tell you right now, the airlines are freaking out.
Oh yeah.
I'm not super worried about my job because they'll need me and they like me there, so it's fine. But there are on our Facebook board that from our company, there's a lot of flight attendants that are freaking out. A lot of pilots that are worried.
Sure.
And
rightfully so.
Yeah, and I don't know that we'll actually be affected that much. We'll see. But the majors, Delta, is asking employees to take 2 months off.
Unpaid? Oh, wow.
But, in their defense, they did just give their employees 2 months' salary and a bonus. So kind of seems fair, right?
It's just poetic.
Yeah. I think they were asking 10,000 flight attendants to step down. I don't know how many are, but.
Well, so I do have to applaud President Trump if he follows through on what he's promised. He's promised relief for hourly wage earners
mm-hmm.
and for people who are just affected generally, and also relief for businesses either in the form of small loans,
mm-hmm.
Which is it's socialism, but whatever.
I know Colbert made a joke about that. He's like, so we're going to take money and we're going to help everyone who has the coronavirus with Medicaid. So.
Right. Yeah, so here's my take on
or Medicare, sorry.
If we look at just the airline industry.
Yeah.
both, whatever. If we look at just the airline industry, yes, they're going to lose a shit ton of money and potential money. But as soon as this thing is over, it's going to ramp right back up.
I hope so.
You know,
like
so-
I hope this isn't like a slow
burn.
Like, do you think my one thing that I kept thinking is like, is this going to affect people in such a way that they're just scared to do anything? Like, is this going to be the new norm where we're just always social distancing and people are just afraid?
I don't think so, because it's a novel virus, and like any virus, once you have that strain, you can't get it again.
Right.
So it might come to that where people are like, no, I've already had it. I don't care. You know?
Well, apparently millennials are just ignoring everything anyway.
But that's my point that I made earlier to you, is that you have to think past you, even just one step, because those millennials have parents who might be in that
Yeah.
I quarantined my parents. Me and my brother called me. He said, you need to quarantine the parents. You know, so I called him up. I said, no more. They own a food truck. I said, no more food truck events. My dad is immunocompromised because of his pancreas. I'm like, you guys just stay inside, no contact, wash your hands, gloves. If you need anything, call me. I'll bring it. I'll drop it off at your door. You know, which once again affects childcare because they watch Quinn.
Oh, right.
So, but I'm like, you guys can't go anywhere for 14 days. I'm too worried about my dad, especially. You know, I think my brother was in tears when he was talking to me about it.
No, that's what on Thursday I started thinking about, like, oh, Bryan's dad, my brother-in-law's dad. I mean, my parents are pretty old. I think they're not high risk, but you know, it's just like, oh, that's kind of worrisome.
It's really, if it's more than 1 degree away from you, then it's probably only 2.
Right.
To where you could get someone sick who is high risk.
Right.
You know, so I don't know if selfish is the right word or just ignorant. You know, not thinking about that. Because if you miss something and you're just like, I didn't think about that, that's not necessarily selfish.
Right.
That's just ignorant. Now, if you know that, yeah, I could kill my grandma, but I'm going to still go to work. Okay, that's selfish, you know.
I guess the millennials I've seen a lot of posts and stuff talking about cheap airfare, like $50 to Cancun.
Right.
You know, that doesn't affect me at all because I'm like, free to Cancun.
Right.
But I guess that's happening a lot. But I have a friend, Brent. You know Brent. Brent Red. We used to play in a band together. Short guy, you know. He was leaving to Hawaii today, and they called it off not because they're like nervous or anything, but because, well, if everything's going to be closed in Hawaii, what's the point?
Right. Well, and I brought up this point when the Jazz thing happened,
right?
And they kept the players in OKC.
Yeah,
I thought, could our governor suspend flights from Oklahoma? Even though we know the virus is everywhere.
I have no idea.
If we know it's there, no more flights from Oklahoma.
Do governors have that?
I don't know. That was my question, because I know the president does, obviously.
A lot of airline people are worried that there's going to be a complete 9/11 style stop.
No, that wouldn't surprise me at all if tomorrow they grounded flights.
Right.
It would have to be, I think that epidemiologists are probably looking at it saying, how much of a risk is plane travel right now? You know,
I wonder if the airlines would be upset or not about that, because they probably get bailout money.
Well, that's just it. I think all of these companies who might face issues are going to get some sort of bailout, because this is what's funny. People who are opposed to socialism, when something like this happens or 2008 happens, all of a sudden it's like, wait, we can help though. Let's pool all our tax dollars together because we don't want that to happen. You know, instead of realizing complete and total capitalism, which would be, shit happens, bro. You know, if you can't make it through, you can't make it through. What am I going to tell you? Because if Sky West went out of business, you can't tell me the competitors would be like, sorry, man. You know?
Yeah. No, I agree. And that kind of brings me to my next question, my next conversation. The folly of our healthcare system. Now, I know that you talked about this before on the podcast, but I was talking with my sister the other day, and she was like, "Oh, well, I thought all those countries have worse healthcare systems than us." And I was like, actually.
You'd like to think so.
Yeah.
You'd like to think that the wealthiest country in the world would have the best.
Yeah. So instead of that, we have not the worst, obviously,
No.
because there are, Irans and
Sure.
and as
North Korea's.
as Trump would call them.
Yeah.
But anyway, we as far as the developed countries go, we are last.
Right.
For the most part, I think Italy wasn't on that list. They're below us.
I can't remember, but
Are they considered developed? I didn't realize that
Yeah.
Italy's kind of ghetto.
they usually refer to it either as Western world or industrialized world because
Right.
obviously Russia's not Western and they're
Right.
So
And on top of that, not only we're the worst, but we're paying the most
by far
by a lot.
this was the stat that I shared on the podcast.
Yeah, I
last
remember.
time.
Yeah.
4% of the population lives in the United States,
Uh-huh.
but we spend 40% of all money
Right.
spent on healthcare in the world.
Right.
So
So
Yeah.
what the folly here, the problem, and if Trump does everything he says he's going to do, then it'll essentially be socialized medicine and fine. But if that weren't to happen, you would have this pandemic and you would have people that say, well, I can't afford to go take $1,000 test
right.
to which it's not like it actually costs $1,000 to take the test.
No.
We're just gouged.
Right.
I wouldn't go take it. I would just hope for the best. You
can't afford it.
I can't afford it. You would have so many people that are like, I can't.
It's already
I
happening.
can't afford to do this.
I guarantee that they're even in Utah.
Oh, yeah.
It's tens of thousands of people who should go get tested, didn't or haven't yet. You
Right.
know. Now, yes, he talked with the insurers and the companies saying we're going to remove copays for testing. Hopefully, you don't test positive because we're not removing copays for treatment. But
I thought they were. I thought they were like anything.
right now, it's just for the test.
Oh, okay.
So if you get admitted to the hospital, sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's really this pandemic is really showing, in my opinion, the folly of our healthcare system and how it's not what everyone thinks it is.
Right, it's
And-
doing wonders for Bernie's ideas.
right.
It's not helping Bernie by any means, don't get me wrong, but his ideas are certainly. And did you hear that, by the way? Not to switch gears, but did you hear him on I can't remember if it was on Fox or something, talking about whether he'd drop out of the race? And he said no, and here's why. Because the ideas, the ideology that I have is being more and more accepted. Now it's not helping my electability, and I get that. I think he said, I don't understand why, but it is. But so it almost sounded as if his hope was, okay, fine, elect Joe Biden, but you guys are seeing that my ideas are actually right.
This is actually a good segue to something else. Are we done talking about? Oh yeah, our healthcare system sucks. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
But this, there's someone on Facebook here, and there's been so many memes. I'm not laughing anymore. There was one I saw. What was it? That made me chuckle the other day or earlier today. But for the most part, it's just the same stuff over and over again. Like, now I fart to hide my cough, and it's like, all right, ha, ha, ha. My post the other day was funny though.
It was funny.
What did I say? I'm going to do what I refuse to buy into the hysteria. I'm just going to do what I do every weekend, which is sit in front of the couch and watch TV and isolate myself from social situations.
Also, your Dodge Caravan.
Oh yeah, that was us. Yes, that I thought about that. That was my analogy for our healthcare system. Our healthcare system is like paying for a Mercedes-Benz and then getting a Dodge Caravan.
Right, for sure.
A 1993 Dodge Caravan.
Yeah.
But anyway, this post on Facebook sparked from this comedian. His name's Rodney Norman.
Oh, dude, I love him.
Oh, have you seen him before?
Uh-huh.
Like
I've seen him at Wise Guys.
When I was doing stand-up, I met him a couple times.
He's one of the popular Utah comedians.
Yeah, he is. But he's also he's on the right, I would say. He's a former Marine and maybe more libertarian than anything.
Yeah, his Facebook posts are usually just more satire than anything,
Yeah.
But
This one got 128 comments, and it seemed to spark quite the debate.
Okay.
And it was, welcome to the dry run for socialism. Now, from his other posts, he is definitely opposed to any kind of socialism. You can tell that. But the comments that followed were something like this. Sure looks to me like capitalism failing to meet the needs of the people. But hey, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. And then
I don't. Go ahead.
And then this person, this is always my argument. We've always had socialism. Public schools employ firefighters, police officers, National Guard, FEMA, etc. People just don't think about it.
So there's 2 arguments to be made about this topic. First is, what are the failures that you're referring to? Right? So in this pandemic, what failures have we had as a country? The first one I can think of would be testing. The most obvious would be it's not anything practical, but it was just the overall attitude from the executive branch and the right when this was just starting, that it was a joke. Matt Gaetz wore a gas mask to Congress as a joke, and now he's self-quarantined. He's a fucking asshole.
How disappointed were you when you found out Trump doesn't have it?
I was a little disappointed. So in my opinion, if we're talking about the failures that have happened, one is about ideology from the right, that this was nothing to be worried about. And then the second was, we don't have enough tests because Trump turned them down. So am I missing any other failure on the part of the people or on the part of the state that made this worse? But we don't have enough ventilators ready. We don't have enough masks.
So that's where his argument that says socialism has failed, or is because the government has failed, essentially, to get our tests and everything.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm just trying to identify what failures he's talking about. Because the socialist versus capitalist argument is a separate argument. Right? I'm trying to figure out what failures have happened that he's referring to. That would help us figure out if he's talking about socialism or capitalism. Because my understanding, I could be wrong, my understanding is Trump turned down the World Health Organization's tests because of capitalism. He wanted them to be made here.
Right.
So that's capitalism. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Our healthcare industry is not socialist.
No,
It's
very, very
capitalist. So, and we currently live if capitalism and socialism were on a spectrum, it's definitely more capitalist. There are social programs that you talk about.
Yeah, I actually have a whole list of them I just found here. Medicare, Social Security, public schools, military, highways, roads, public libraries, fire department, police, student loans, farm subsidiaries, CIA, FBI, polio vaccine, EPA, museums, public parks, VA, GI Bill, Hoover Dam, bridges, free lunch program, SNAP, FDA, unemployment insurance, OSHA, USDA, National Weather Service, CDC, sewer system, Medicare, jail, prison systems, court systems, healthcare, 911 workers, disability insurance, town, state-run beaches, state construction, state snow plow removal, public street lighting, and more.
Yeah.
All social programs.
By the way, you mentioned in your speed talk polio.
Yeah.
We eradicated polio with a social program.
Right.
So if there were failures with the coronavirus pandemic, they were definitely failures of capitalism, not failures of socialism.
Right.
So in terms of a dry run, no, this was a wet run of the failures of capitalism that we've seen over and over again.
That's basically what people are coming back with him. It says, sounds like this has failed capitalism. And I've noticed lately a lot, and on my company's board, on various other sites, people seem to be really going after the rich. like billionaires. Like there is finally starting to like click into them.
That how much fucking money they have.
And I think they should be worried. I think that they should be
We got pitchforks, dude.
concerned.
Yeah, I mean, to go back like 10 minutes in our conversation, we were just talking about the tens of thousands of people, probably in Utah alone, that should have been tested in the past couple weeks who haven't because it costs $1,300.
Right.
So that's failed capitalism.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is.
Failed socialism would be like, we have an abundance of tests here, no one's fucking taking them. Right? That's failed socialism. So I don't know. I've seen that as well, and I'm like,
always confused as to what.
So now you're admitting we have socialism to try and prove that it's bad?
Yeah.
But this whole time you said we've never had socialism. You can't,
And we're going to use socialism to fight the virus.
Right.
So I don't get it. All these other countries, all 11 of the countries in front of us are capitalist countries with social programs.
Right. Hence.
What the hell?
Hence the words democratic socialist.
I just don't get what the hang up is. Why do people trust corporations, I guess is my question, because they don't care. And the way I've made this point before, there are people in the corporation that care about you.
Right.
Your boss, your coworkers. The CEO does not give two shenanigans. He may say he does, and Delta and Southwest CEOs both going without salary during this.
Wow.
Or taking cuts.
Salary?
Well,
I mean,
regardless,
most CEOs. They're most like.
I don't know if they're going without pay at all, but they're taking their salary and they're going and distributing it to those below them that need it.
Because generally, with the exception of Jeff Bezos, when you hear that someone made $25 million last year, usually only $500,000 of that is in salary,
right,
and the rest is stock and stuff.
I don't know the logistics of it, but anyway,
right.
What I'm saying is, CEOs really they don't care. The corporation it doesn't care. I can guarantee you, the investors don't care, and they're the real boss.
Right
now, when it comes to healthcare and your doctor, okay, you are there. You've got an illness, potentially life threatening. Do you trust that your insurance company to come through, this for-profit company, to come through with the right cure for you? Or do you trust, because the doctor doesn't care. In fact, the doctor would probably rather keep insurance out because a lot of doctors will take less money.
Well, and insurance companies stop a lot of things.
Yeah.
They say, oh, no, we won't pay for
that. We
won't
won't pay for that. Yeah, we can make that person walk again, but we can't cover that.
Right.
That happens
all the time.
Incredibly frequently.
Right.
Only extremely rich people have good insurance. Period. Right. Right. And
their insurance isn't even really insurance.
Yeah.
It's just cash.
Yeah, basically. Are you going to trust that the insurance company or who has to make a profit, or the government that's backed, it's got, I don't want to say endless amounts of money, but
they do control it to an extent.
Right. But who's making the better judgment call? I mean,
you asked the $1 million question. There was the one you asked at the beginning. Why do you trust corporations over the government?
I've never understood that.
You should inherently.
I'm not saying I trust the government that much, but I'm just saying.
Well, when you say trust the government, there's a lot that goes into that, right?
Right.
Do you trust the government to do the right thing always? Well, of course not, because half of them you disagree with.
Yeah.
Right. But one thing you do know is that they're constantly trying to get reelected.
Right.
Even if they have term limits, they're going to try and make sure the next guy is in their party.
Right.
Gets reelected, which means they're going to do what the most people in their constituency want to have happen. Now, that doesn't mean that the messaging isn't controlled to make people believe that our system is better.
Right.
Fox News.
Right.
So the messaging is still controlled, and it can dissuade people from the truth. But nevertheless, the government inherently has to do what the people want, otherwise they won't get reelected.
Right.
So you can't take that out of the equation, though, the fact that they control the messaging. And Republicans are The way that Republicans are able to get everybody on message within minutes is staggering. It's something Democrats have never been able to do.
Right.
Republicans can get on message no matter how wrong, how immoral, unethical it is within minutes. Every fucking Republican's saying it.
It's true.
None of them disagree except for Mitt Romney. They're within minutes. You could have one on every talk show saying the same thing. They got an app or something.
Good text.
Yeah. So you
Hold on, John. I'm getting a text right now. Oh,
I gotta reverse everything I just said.
don't actually believe that, turns out. I believe the complete opposite.
Right. So, but to your point, trusting corporations who that's money
They're for profit.
for profit.
It doesn't
Right.
make any sense. Like,
You could take all 20 million people who work for insurance companies and make them work for the federal government, and all of a sudden their quotas disappear.
right,
And we no longer have a quota.
right,
Oh my gosh, we can do the right thing.
right. I don't understand. I don't understand. I think it might be a boomer mentality, maybe.
Well, it's a status quo.
What do you mean?
It's been the way it's been,
Well, yeah,
and it will be the way it is.
the boomers, their personality was kind of their job defined them,
Right.
And they'll do anything for the company.
Well,
but
Since World War II, the messaging has been, this is the best fucking country that's ever existed in the history of the world.
Right.
We're the richest, we're the healthiest, we're the strongest. For 70 years, that's the message that's been told to us since preschool.
right, turns out,
Now, with the internet, we've been able to do a little bit of research and say, oh, we're actually 43rd in healthcare.
right,
We spend 40% of all money that's spent on healthcare with only 4% of the population. Mm-hmm. That's simple research, that we're doing now in 2020.
right.
It's taken this long for the curve of technology to catch up.
And the Republicans' argument, fake news.
Fake news. But millennials were being told this is the greatest country. And then all of a sudden they see a meme. And they're like, well, I'm going to Google that real quick and find out if that's true. I mean, we're the same age. Mm-hmm. I got to be honest. I have moments when it's really hard for me as someone who's patriotic to accept that we're not the best.
Right.
It gives me a stomachache because, in my opinion, we should be, because we're the richest.
Right.
And because we're Americans, we pride ourselves on freedom. We try and spread freedom. Well, unless you read some Noam Chomsky and you realize that sometimes we're not pro-freedom. Just depends on the country. It really, really hurts. It makes me sick to think that my patriotism might be misplaced.
Right.
That we're not actually the best in all these things. We've killed a lot of fucking people.
Yeah.
We killed 1 million people in Iraq.
Yeah.
1 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Because of 9/11, with which they had nothing to do.
Right.
Nothing. We killed 1 million people. Even if we killed 1 million people in Afghanistan as a retaliation, even that's like, holy shit.
Right.
You guys are kind of assholes.
No.
Like, this was a group of gorillas that live in caves that flew planes into your building. Mm-hmm. Killed 3,000 people. Yeah, I get it. You guys came over here and killed 1 million.
Someone's got to pay.
You killed 1 million Afghan civilians. And then you went into Iraq for no reason and killed 1 million Iraqis. It's not the same story as what we did to Japan. It's not the same.
Right.
In Japan, they weren't going to stop.
Right.
They were never, ever going to stop. And even then, people argue against dropping that bomb. Mm-hmm. That's a weird tangent I just went on. But
yeah, I'll say.
The point is, I think that to your point with boomers and why boomers and, the silent generation, even a lot of people in the greatest generation who are, 80 or 90 years old now are actually, they lean more left.
Right.
The silent generation is still rather silent. It's right after the greatest.
Okay.
Right? And then boomers come right after that.
Right.
It's only like 10-year gaps. And so the boomers are just obnoxious and have been told that they're the greatest because they were told by your parents they were the greatest because they beat the Nazis, right? And then you have Gen Xers who were hippies,
Right.
who fucked everything up. And so the Gen Xers are still sitting there, screwed everything up, and the boomers and the millennials are fighting over who is really at fault. When Gen X is the one who really did it.
Bastards.
But to your point with wondering why the I don't know the word, the dissonance, the mindfuck that it is when you realize that America's not the best, it's hard.
Right.
It's really, really hard. You know, I'm a kind of person who cries at a parade
Yeah.
or cries at the national anthem. And then you wonder, like, but what are we doing, though?
I think that another thing that helps with that is visiting other countries.
Yeah.
Because, you go to I've been to 3 now, England, Australia, and Japan. And you go and you realize, oh, this is fine.
They're fine.
Is basically just like us. They're all happy and they look like they're taken care of. And
I went and saw, did I tell you I went and saw Trevor Noah?
oh, did you
My
really?
dad got me and my brother and him tickets. So
Wow.
we went and saw him, his comedy tour. He's fantastic. He's a great stand-up comedian.
Right.
But he was making that point that America's afraid of not being number one. And he's like, take it from a guy who grew up in South Africa. It's not that bad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah.
You know, and this is a guy who had to walk on the separate side of the road from his
Right.
mother.
Right.
You know, he's like, it's not that bad to not be number one. If anything, you get to just shrug your shoulders when something bad happens. You know,
Right.
let China be number one. So the next shitty thing that happens, you can be like, hey, China, where are you at? And I think that Americans are genuinely afraid of not being the best.
Yeah.
And I can understand why generations like the Greatest Generation and even the Silent Generation are like that. I can understand that when they saw things like the Nazis,
Well, yeah.
you know, and we're the ones who defeated them. I can get that, right? I understand that. We beat the Nazis who killed 12 million innocent people, almost wiped out an entire race. I get that. But the reality is now afoot. You know, and millennials, and I can't remember the generation after them now that we're even further.
This is Generation Z, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
something
that was
like
born
that.
after 2000 or 2000 and after are even more aware of America's true standing in the world. As yes, we're very, very well respected. We're very powerful. We're very rich, but we're not necessarily the best, and we don't always do the right thing.
Right. No, not at all.
So, can I got to share one more thing.
Okay.
Because we were going to talk about toilet paper.
Okay.
Every time we've talked about an apocalypse, I've told you that the currency will be cigarettes and gold.
That's wrong. That's completely
It's
wrong.
completely wrong.
You were definitely wrong. It's hand sanitizer and toilet paper.
Did you hear about the guy who bought all the hand sanitizer?
This
This dude went around when coronavirus first started, when all the dollar stores, he has like 70,000 little bottles of hand sanitizer.
Serious?
And he tried to fulfill by Amazon. And Amazon said no.
Oh, that sucks.
So he has a garage full of hand sanitizer. And I mean, but in Utah, we see people with garagefuls of toilet paper. Makes no sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still I haven't been to the store today, but every day that I've gone, there's no toilet paper.
I went
still.
today, no toilet paper. I wasn't shopping for toilet paper. We have enough.
Well, luckily my mom has like a year's supply, so
know.
if we run out, then
It's the last thing
we'll
I
be
would have
good.
guessed. And you understand how it happened, right? It's a few people who go and buy it all.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is like, well, I'm down to my last pack.
Right.
I better go stock up. So then they buy it all.
But like, I just don't get the rationale for toilet paper. It's like,
There is none.
like,
But that's what I mean. It wasn't, it's not all the people who've been buying toilet paper. It was the first group who really were stupid.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just like, well, I'm down to my last 5 rolls. What am I supposed to do?
yeah, basically,
You know?
we're just like, we
Yeah.
need it.
But I did go to the store today to buy some other stuff for my parents because they're quarantined.
Yeah.
And as I'm checking out the self-checkout, the guy next to me, he's got like 7 bottles of like Dial hand soap. You know, I'm like, hey, good for him.
Right.
Wash your hands
Wow, he
more.
found it.
Yeah, I know. He found some hand soap. Not sanitizer, soap.
That's impressive.
Right.
I'm almost out, so.
Yeah, but he found some soap, buy 6. I turn around and look at the guy behind me at the self-checkout.
Right.
And he's got 7 2 liters of Diet Coke
Nice.
because, you know, aspartame comes from China. And I thought,
Oh, I
what
have
an
heard.
interesting priority check.
I'd be with the Diet Coke guy.
Yeah, I mean, freak, man, my Mountain Dew Zero's probably got a shit ton of aspartame in it. Yeah, it does. So
There you go.
Who knows what's going to happen?
No, I think aren't most of the factories up and running in China again?
I don't know what capacity.
I know
they're at.
Apple's
probably
is.
like 60. Apple's shutting down all their retail for 2 weeks. Did you see that?
Really?
All their United States retail shut down for 2 weeks.
I guess all the grocery stores are closing early too.
Yeah, so
Like Walmart?
Yeah, Smith's is. I told Ashley, I'm like, here's what we need to do. We just need to go at midnight. That's when they're restocking. You know,
Right.
so we stayed up till midnight on Friday.
How disappointing.
She drives to the store, and yeah, they closed at 11. And she's like, in the time that I sat in the parking lot to text you about it, she's like, 6 more cars drove up, and all of them were just as pissed. They never close.
No, I think Walmart's closing early too, and I'm not sure if it's just so they can actually replenish.
I think it is. 'Cause,
Or
I mean,
or
empty
what,
shelves
but-
take a long time to stock when there's customers in the store.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a pain.
I can't imagine. I am so glad I do not work in retail right now because
Oh,
apparently it's been like Black Friday for 2 weeks.
Oh.
I can't imagine.
and all of those guys are patient zero.
Yeah,
They're all the
basically.
first ones getting it.
Yeah.
in retail. Yeah.
Not ideal.
Anyway, Dial or Diet Coke, whatever your flavor.
Diet Coke, man. I'm sure that you could wash your hands with Diet Coke. It would do something, right?
Oh yes,
Hot water and
absolutely.
Diet Coke.
Hot water, Diet Coke's
You know,
better than soap.
Most hand soap isn't even antibacterial.
Well, they got rid of that last year or a couple years ago.
Yeah.
It's hot water. Actually, it's just water now.
Yeah.
The CDC's just water and soap.
Just do whatever, man.
Just will you mind touching your hands together into some water?
Pee on your hands. That'll help.
We need you to touch your hands together when they're wet. That's all we're asking.
It's so much to ask. At work, we did get all new signs everywhere to wash hands.
So did we.
Oh,
Yeah.
my gosh. All right, we'll be right back. Some lighter news when we come back, and random headlines, and that'll probably be it, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, we'll be back.
Wow, is this coronavirus great or what? You get to work from home in your pajamas, watching TV, sweating down to your couch springs, coughing like you got 3 tennis balls in your lungs. What an exciting time to be barely alive. Okay, Pence, you're up.
In troubling times, I find comfort in the good book.
Bored? Okay, I assume there aren't any questions.
What can the American people do to stay safe?
First, stop voting for Joe Biden in the primaries. Those ballots are petri dishes. And second, wash your hands thoroughly like I do by scrubbing them in freezing cold water long enough to recite your screaming match with Tony Little at the Palm in 92.
Have you been tested for the virus?
No need. Sure, I've shaken hands with several dozen people who are now quarantined, but the Surgeon General gave me a pregnancy test and said I'm in the clear. Side note, until the threat is passed, the CDC is advising people to avoid shaking hands or checking their 401ks.
Are you at all worried that the outbreak will further destabilize the markets?
Hello. The markets are supposed to jump up and down. That just means they're excited. And now my Treasury Secretary will put your mind at ease.
Don't worry, we're doing a tax cut to help all the average Americans out there. From the guy who operates my private elevator to the gal who pumps pig fat into my wife's forehead.
Woo! Now we're having fun. Oh, by the way, I know a lot of festivals are shutting down, so I'm proud to announce that I'll be hosting my own Coachella on the South Lawn. Mark McGrath is a hard maybe.
When can we expect a vaccine?
As soon as we figure out a way to funnel all the money we funnel out of the CDC back into it. All right, I think we're good here.
Coronavirus! A sewage pipe burst at my place, so I'm quarantining here. Hey, look! Coronavirus gets you so sweaty you can shake yourself dry like a big fluffy dog.
Okay, apocalypse time. Every man for himself.
This is the Our Take Podcast. We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you these random headlines.
Welcome back, everybody.
Random headlines. So remember how I played the ER music earlier?
Yeah.
Have you ever watched football on Fox before? Or Fox Sports in general?
Probably.
So I noticed this. Right. So I noticed that they every time there's a player injury, and go to an injury commercial,
Yeah.
They play different music.
They don't play the...
Let's see if we can...
Like Ryan Kelly, their center, we're talking about how healthy this group has been.
Their offensive line.
It's all like...
A little jazzy.
It's like ER-esque.
11 starts, and now Ryan...
Oh, yeah, I do hear that little minor.
Yeah.
When we come back.
Yes, it is. It's totally more serious. Like, hey, we got to take a break.
Yeah.
Serious.
The first time I noticed, I was like, is that ER? Like,
little,
what?
Little minor stuff there.
All right. Before we get to random headlines, before the show, we were like, man, this news is all heavy. There's got to be something lighter out there. So we both actually Googled lighter news.
At the exact same time.
Yeah, to see what would come up. And we found some lighter news. This is the headline. Child plays with lighter, starts house on fire.
Oh.
So, yeah, good news all around. That house is gone.
And then
Two-story duplex got on fire.
What was that other one that popped up? Coronavirus has changed things we took as givens in L.A.
Yeah.
If you Google lighter news,
it still comes up with coronavirus.
Yeah.
Oh, and kids playing with lighters.
Yeah, we meant it as an adjective, not as a noun.
Yeah.
Lighter news. That's awesome.
People, it's funny. Anyway, okay, random headlines. Let's see here. Florida. This is in Florida.
Of course.
The Florida Senate sent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis?
Yeah, I think it's DeSantis.
No, that doesn't. That's
in Florida?
Yeah. I guess that's how you say it. They sent a bill Thursday that removes an entire chapter of state law. Okay.
I didn't know it was written in chapters.
Now this is going to be painful for some people, but these are laws regulating the telegraph.
Oh man.
Yeah. Including getting rid of a $50 fine for not sending a message fast enough.
You know, I've always thought that the telegraph industry needed to be regulated more.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some crazy out of control, beepers.
Yeah, beep, 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 beep.
Yeah.
Do you know any Morse code besides SOS? Do you know SOS? Yeah.
Only because of the old soap commercial. Because remember the dishes in the dishwasher? The SOS pads?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dishes in the dishwasher were like shung, 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 shung.
Really?
Shung,
I
shung.
never noticed that.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
And of course, Boy Scouts, the flashlight.
Oh, yeah. My flashlight, I have a flashlight that just does it automatically.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Programmed.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And what else? I had something else that was doing it automatically.
I feel like no one takes it seriously anymore.
I know. It's just an SOS. There's some jackass on the hill that got lost. You notice being in Provo, or when I lived in Provo down in Utah County, every August without failure, or September, when school comes back, there is always a rescue on the Y Mountain.
All right. The people hiking
around.
up the Y.
Someone, without fail, someone gets lost.
Yeah.
Someone goes up too late and gets frozen. Always.
Yep.
Always a rescue. Now, speaking of frozen, dogs. When growing up or whenever, what was the reason you were given as to why dogs' noses are cold and wet?
I was always told that's where they sweat from.
Okay.
Like their paw pads and their nose.
Right.
They don't sweat on their body.
Right. I was just told that was meant they were healthy.
That if it was wet?
Yeah.
I guess hydration, it plays a role.
Yeah.
Sure.
So most of that's wrong.
Oh.
A new study revealed the phenomenon. Their noses are actually ultra sensitive ultra sensitive heat detectors. And they can detect animals like underground.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense with other animals like wolves or foxes.
Right.
And I mean, they're obviously listening. You've ever seen the fox pounce on snow, right?
Right.
Yeah. So they must be able to feel it, too.
Yeah, it says that it showed the dog's nose can detect very faint heat sources, such as small animals from 5 feet away.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's, yeah, that makes sense. So they can't just hear it or smell it. They can feel it.
So
you ever wonder how they do these studies? Like, they figure out a way to hook it to a human brain. They took a dog nose.
I don't know. They just really get comfortable with the dog and start asking him questions.
Yeah.
You know, the dog's like, I don't know. Okay, this is straight from Fox News, but out of Canada. A Canadian man is set to appeal the court ruling that revoked his vanity license plate.
In Canada?
Yeah.
I'm disappointed that Canada has a Fox News.
Oh, it's actually Fox News US. It's just the stories
Canadian
from
headline.
Canada. Yeah.
Right. I didn't tell you about I'm sorry. Vanity plate just reminded me. Vanity plate time. Time out for a vanity plate.
I don't have a sounder for that.
Oh my
Wait,
gosh.
what is playing right now?
I like it. Is that the rest of the random headline?
I don't think I'm playing it. I think
Can you
Fox is.
look at this vanity plate I took while I was driving? I took that picture. Do you see it? Do you remember the infamous tweet? Despite all the negative press, Covfefe.
Oh.
Someone in Utah got a Covfefe.
It's COVE3E or F3.
Right. So he used threes to make them E's. Freaking Covfefe.
I think someone registered a plane with that too.
That I was dying. I thought that's the best vanity
I
plate.
probably would have been trying to figure that out for. It probably would have bothered me for days.
I'll share this right now. There's nothing illegal with sharing a license plate, right?
Right.
Sorry.
No.
Canadian vanity plate.
Yeah. So the license plate, it got rejected, but he's had this particular vanity plate since 1990 and has renewed it without issues ever since. But in 2016, someone complained about it to the Department of Motor Vehicles, and claiming it promoted hatred against women.
Okay.
So the license plate says, "Grab her."
Okay.
GRAB her.
Grab her. I mean, if I was on the board of approvals for vanity plates, I think I'd probably deny that one as well.
Right. Because grab her by the,
just generally, like, what do you mean? Like, that doesn't belong on a license plate, man.
Yeah.
Let's keep it auto-related.
So, now this guy's from Nova Scotia, and his name is Lauren. Grab her.
Oh. Oh, man, that's tough.
Yeah.
Still, nevertheless.
I think I think there's no reason to fight that. Just be like, all right, fine.
Like accept that it was denied?
Yeah, but going after him or whatever. Like, well, whatever.
Yeah, man, that's a funny last name. It's funny because...
God, he's like really proud of it, too. He's got a thing over his garage that says, "Grab her place."
Yeah, you're clearly playing on it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I get it, but you're playing on it. Don't pretend like you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, this guy's
definitely.
Especially the "grab her place." That's
right. That gives
it
away.
Street sign. Yeah, that's
now we know.
Now we know.
Now we know that you know.
He should pronounce it differently. It's actually "grab hair."
Yeah, Grabert.
It's French.
Speaking of Gobert, Rudy, did you see that? Obviously, big snafu, but he donated $500K to.
Yeah, I was confused because I saw two different reports, and I don't know if he actually donated a whole million or because one said he donated $500,000 to the workers at Vivint, and the other one said he donated $500,000 to coronavirus relief.
Okay. I don't think it's either. Because I read one article that explained it.
Okay.
It's 500 total.
Okay.
200 to Vivint, 100 to OKC.
Oh, okay.
And another, whatever the remainder is, 200
right.
to, in euros, to the people in France.
Oh, okay.
It's something like that. But anyway, it ends up being $500,000.
Which is a lot.
Sure.
I was a little surprised when I saw that number because normally even ultra rich celebrities will be like, "Well, we're donating
$10,000,
$20,000."
Kevin Love did the same thing.
Oh, did he?
Where does he play now? Toronto, Cleveland. Anyway, same thing because all of the hourly wage workers that man the concessions and ushers.
We didn't even talk about that, did we? Do we want to get back into that? Like it is affecting the economy hugely. I mean, downtown is a ghost town right now.
And who does it affect more? The poor.
Yeah, well, always.
So, and hope that's the thing where Trump says things in a press conference that you're like, I hope you really do that.
I know.
I hope you really get rid of copays.
There was a lot of things that he said during his Oval Office thing that I was like, oh, that might just win him the election. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I was like, okay.
Right.
Man, but CNN tore his thing apart after.
Of course.
And I was like, okay, your bias is showing. I mean, they were like, he was sweating and breathing. You could tell he was pissing his pants.
Did you see Trevor Noah, though?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, my gosh. If you guys don't know, just Google Donald Trump Oval Office blooper because the camera was on before and after he gave the speech, and he said some funny stuff. I'm not blaming him. I think everybody probably would do the same thing he was doing.
Yeah,
you know,
it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was really
it's funny. It just gives you
his reaction after.
Okay,
moving on.
I loved the binder thing.
Yeah,
it's like, should I have this on the desk?
I have this here? No, doesn't matter. Like, what? Did he? Did he end up having the binder?
Yeah, I think so. What were we talking about? Oh, the poor people. Yeah. He said that he was going to offer relief to hourly wage earners. I just don't know how it's going to work.
I don't know either.
He said he was going to issue a payroll tax cut so people could continue to pay their people. Don't know how it's going to work.
Right.
So I hope so. But if there's
sweet.
a bunch of bureaucratic red tape, a poor person can't even file their taxes, let alone get onto a website to try and get the money that they should have been earning, you know?
You know how this is really affecting me is Colbert is off the air now.
I saw his no audience show.
It was so weird. I
so
watched it
awkward.
too. You could tell he was just like, I don't want to do this.
Right,
This
super uncomfortable.
This is weird. That's probably he didn't cancel until after that one. So
right.
And he said it's my staff. I'm worried about my staff. Like, oh,
and did you know that that show was just the rehearsal?
The rehearsal. And he's like, just
whatever.
Use this.
Yeah.
Whatever. It was fine. But
the no late night audiences now.
Yeah. Well, I think they all canceled their shows.
Any of them that are done in New York, well, even California, they've limited the crowd size. That's the problem.
I can't remember if Kimmel canceled or not. But
can I just this is some bad news.
Okay.
Actually, it'll make you mad.
Uh-oh.
California's been in a state of emergency for 3 weeks now.
3 years.
4 weeks. Yeah, it's true. With
Wisconsin.
For between the fires and this. And on Friday, I think, Thursday, Donald Trump announced a state of emergency.
Right.
Or Friday afternoon. I was talking to a friend.
National emergency.
I was talking to a friend whose husband was just traveling back to the United States.
Uh-huh.
From Bangladesh.
Right.
And I said, oh no, is he going to get back in? Are they going to quarantine him? What's the deal? You know?
The whole thing is very confusing. But yeah.
Because they've said they're going to.
Right.
Anybody who's coming in, extra screenings, blah, blah, blah. He flew into LAX.
Mm-hmm.
Just walked out.
Really?
Didn't even take his temperature.
Oh, that's not the case anymore. Have you seen some
This was on Friday.
Yeah, but
this was 2 days ago.
That was before the ban actually happened, though. The ban was Friday at midnight. So Saturday.
Right, but with extra screenings.
No, I know. It's fine. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When I came back from Japan, they just asked me if I'd been to China, and I said no, and it was
right.
fine. But have you seen lately all the complaints about customs and how people are waiting in lines in close quarters for 6 hours?
That's a good point. That's a good point. But just letting someone just like walk out, nothing. I don't even think they asked him that question.
Well, yeah, that's not ideal.
This was like I understand your point that the ban doesn't go into effect till Friday.
It seems like,
but this wasn't ban related. This was screening related.
It seems like that's the case for a lot of things. Like even at work, when they were going to let us go home, they're like effective Monday, like like as if nothing could happen that day.
You can't get sick right now,
and we're doing this effective, so no screenings until Friday.
Right.
So hurry if you've got it, get in.
The first time he announced the travel ban from China, I was surprised, and then the Europe one, I was surprised that it was like 2 days later. I'm like, no, if you want an effective ban, you can do that shit now.
Yeah.
They
banned the UK too, I think.
Yeah, they did that effective Monday.
Right.
Pence made that announcement.
Because nothing could happen in between then.
No. I mean, everybody's just scrambling to get on every flight. You know, some Americans are still allowed to fly back. You realize that, right?
Yeah, I know. It's very confusing.
But some Americans spent like up to $20,000 on plane tickets during the panic.
That was stupid.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They thought that they weren't going to be allowed back in on Friday night.
Yeah, it was not very clear.
So, anyway, back to random headlines.
Oh, that was it. I think we're done.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to go watch the debate between Joe and Bernie and see if I would... Here's my ideal debate.
Mm-hmm.
They walk out on stage, they get asked the first question, and they just say, you know what? No, we're not here to debate. We just decided to join forces. I'm his running mate.
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That'd be great.
Anyway.
But that's not going to happen.
Find us at The Arctic Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or at thearcticpodcast.com. Also listen to our music, Rejected Takeoff, on all streaming platforms.
We may have a show. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
For episode 81, I'm Brian.
I'm Spencer. See you next time. Stay healthy and all that stuff that people are saying. Wash your hands.
Wash your freaking hands.
Don't get herpes.